Ladies and gentlemen, the moderator of the session is the Vice Chair of the Global Sustainable Tourism Council and a global leader in responsible tourism. He works closely with governments and destinations to build sustainability frameworks and ethical tourism models. Let's welcome C.V. Ramkumar to kindly join us. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to welcome the speakers on stage. Aduthadaga, we're going to invite someone who is the Executive Director of the WTTC India Initiative, working at the intersection of tourism policy, industry advocacy, and public-private partnerships to strengthen the tourism ecosystem. Please join me in welcoming Sumit Rokar on stage. Okay, in the meantime, I'd like to call upon the next speaker on stage. The next speaker is the Vice President, Business Development at Just Hotels and Resorts, with close to 3 decades of experience in luxury hospitality, brand growth and destination development. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ms. Richa Khurana Singh. Welcome, ma'am. Okay, Aduthadaga, we have Managing Director of CGH Earth Experience Hotels and a pioneer of nature-led experiential hospitality. His work strongly focuses on sustainability, community engagement and cultural preservation. Put your hands together for Mr. Michael Dominic. Welcome, sir. Okay, so now it's time to welcome Senior IAS Officer, Additional Chief Secretary, Environment, Climate Change and Forests, Government of Tamil Nadu, widely recognized for her leadership in climate action and sustainability and a recipient of the UN Champions of the Earth Award. Put your hands together for Ms. Supriya Sahu. Okay, so rest of the speakers will be joining the session very shortly. We request our moderator to kindly take over in the meanwhile. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pre-lunch sessions are always difficult, but we'll do our best. We already lost 2 speakers, so we'll do even better, even before we started. Welcome to this session. It's good that we're having this session after the earlier session where we spoke about ecotourism sites and all that. And I think our panelists spoke passionately about how we manage ecotourism sites, how we manage nature, how we ensure we don't destroy them, right? Now, what if we have to go just beyond the ecotourism sites? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Until now, we've been going with what I call a sanctuary model, where you pile people into buses and into jeeps, and you send them into the forest. Welcome, Sumitra. And the sanctuary model is what we were debating earlier today, saying there's too much of concentration of people while these wildlife areas need to be protected. Now, these sanctuary models have their challenges, like the panel discussed. Overcrowded jeeps, too much of traffic into the wildlife areas, what we're calling ecotourism. Now, it's not only bad for nature, it's bad for business. Any tour operator here will tell you that when you have overcrowded jeeps, tourists don't want to go on it. Eventually, it starts to become a declining sort of phase. How do we now rethink ecotourism beyond sanctuaries? That's what we're going to be discussing here today. Is there a possibility at all for us to look at ecotourism beyond sanctuaries? How do we go beyond citing the big 5 into an ecotourism destination? Now, we know that there are hidden gems, cultural landscapes, agricultural areas, heartlands of agriculture. Now, there is a shift for people who want to go towards and see these ecotourism sites. there is a gradual shift happening from sightseeing, where the tourist is just standing there and viewing something, to experiential tourism, where the tourist becomes part of the living model of that place. Now, by moving beyond the sanctuary gates, what we will be doing is unlocking a huge market. There are opportunities for boutique stays, cultural immersion, slow travel as we call it. Those opportunities does exist in the world today. How do we look at this different kind of hospitality model is what we want to be discussing. Now, all this requires us to tell the stories. Tell the stories of the local people, of the local culture. And when we tell stories, that is when tourists enjoy themselves. I always say, who doesn't enjoy a good story, right? It's embedded into us. So when we tell stories, that is what people come to listen to, not just view the sights and sounds there. So I will call this the middle of nowhere tourism. Not just the forests, the middle of nowhere tourism, where we are talking about beyond the boundaries of standard ecotourism destinations. I call them the in-between spaces, the community-owned lands, the agricultural corridors, the sacred groves, and even our urban wetlands, right? These are what I call the in-between areas. Now, stepping beyond the sanctuary gates is what we need to do. Because what this in-between areas also do is, they have a direct correlation to supporting livelihoods. It becomes a tool for conservation rather than just going to a zoo to see some animals, right? So, we have an eminent panel today who are going to talk to us about these aspects of moving beyond sanctuaries when it comes to ecotourism. So I'm going to start off by just asking each of my panelists to just give your starting thoughts on these issues, on the issue of moving beyond sanctuaries, and then we'll probably go to a few questions and the questions from the audience also. Yeah? Michael, would you like to start?
Good afternoon. I'm grateful to Tamil Nadu government and tourism department for inviting me to this summit. I think it's a very important summit because today Tamil Nadu is about to really take off. Just to mention that CJs already have about 100 rooms in Tamil Nadu, and we feel that today Tamil Nadu has the potential to be as good as the best state in Kerala for tourism because it's got everything to offer. It's got culture, it's got heritage, it's got nature, it's got coastline. And like yesterday the minister had mentioned in the evening that I think today Tamil Nadu is the #1 state in arrivals of tourists. But the question is, how do we ensure that the value addition to Tamil Nadu is there? And for us at CGH, I think I have to tell you a story how CGH started. So CGH goes back, okay, we are more than a 50-year-old company, but our real started in '88 when we went to Lakshadweep, Bangaram. The government of India was giving Bangaram as a contract and we bid for it and got it. But there were some very strict conditions. Even before people are talking about ecotourism, we had been told that if you want to run the property, you have to have 80% employment to the local community. The environmental standards are very stringent. And that really gave us the values for which our company is known for. So in fact, people who came to our property, came to Bangaram, when they were leaving, they said that this is what we came for. These are the values which we appreciate. So I think like Ram Kumar was telling about ecotourism beyond boundaries, I think we need to really understand that there's no restriction that ecotourism is only limited to a certain, maybe to a national park or a sanctuary, but it is applicable to any part of the state, even to a city, where we have to follow the principles of ecotourism.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting topic again, and something very close to my heart. I think the larger challenge for me, and I represent a brand called Justa Hotels. We operate 29 operating hotels and 15 more signed. So we're a commercial company, unlike CGH, which is from the very beginning being very, very committed to a certain philosophy. We're trying to adapt ourselves to a philosophy. So a larger challenge I've always asked is how do you juxtapose growth and commercial viability with, while respecting the lay of the land and being there. And I think that's really my viewpoint here again. So as far as, your questions are concerned, we are actually beginning to realize that the more you respect the ecology, the more commercially viable you are. And I'll share a few examples. I'll share one example, in fact, of a forest resort we've recently taken over in Kanha. It's a 31-room resort, engages about 37 people, out of which only the general manager is not from Kanha. The rest are all tribals, have been trained. Now, as a commercial hotelier, we couldn't understand how this works. But the moment we took over, we understood that these are the local guys who understand the lay of the land. These are the people who will not fuss too much. And these are our assets today. So big learning for us. Number one was that. The other thing also, again, as far as I'm concerned, with regards to tourism and wildlife sanctuaries, India, when it started promoting, we only spoke about tigers and more tigers. So suddenly, spotting a tiger, going to a sanctuary only because there was a tiger became such a cool thing to do. However, I have again two examples to, that remain very steady in my mind because I've done this. One was Masai Mara. A couple of years back, I went to Masai Mara. I was equally excited about seeing the Masai tribe more than the lions and the wild, the land, the lake. And walking with the Maasai tribe to understand really, how do they coexist, the beauty of the whole system. It wasn't about lions. It really wasn't even about the natural park, but I was excited about the community and the entire landscape. The second and closer home is the Run of Kutch, which doesn't have any tigers, which is not even a sanctuary, but the wild asses. Who would have thought, we'd be so excited to go and see a just absolutely pristine landscape with nothing but just wild donkeys. So I think there is an opportunity, and the stories that need to be told in the way that people feel smarter after hearing them and are able to then feel cool about, having visited a place. And that's really how I reimagine ecotourism beyond sanctuaries. Talk about things, talk about hooks which are away from the sanctuaries. Two bit from my side.
So, ladies and gentlemen, with us we have Senior IAS Officer, Additional Chief Secretary, Environment, Climate Change and Forests, Government of Tamil Nadu, widely recognized for her leadership in climate action and sustainability, and a recipient of the UN Champion of the Earth Award, Ms. Supriya Sahu. Please welcome her. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. First of all, I would like to extend my warm congratulations to the Tamil Nadu government for conducting such a wonderful tourism investment summit here in Mamallapuram. We at WTTC-II, we are grateful to the government of Tamil Nadu for considering us to sign an MOU where we can provide an advisory role to the government of Tamil Nadu on the various policy parts of tourism. What was interesting, and I'm just going a little off the track here. When I saw the number of MOUs which were signed and the number of jobs, that were, told as what could be the number of jobs that are going to come up with these investments, I did a quick back of the envelope calculations, and this is a very simple UN, WTO, and WTTC standards. The total number of jobs is approximately about 1 lakh. The multiplier effect, which is the indirect and the induced jobs, would be about another 2.5 lakhs. So you're looking at 3.5 lakhs of jobs. Jobs to youngsters, jobs to aspiring people, and jobs at location possibly, people have not treaded on, where, these people will absolutely have a wonderful first-time experience of, handling guests and the warmth that the people of Tamil Nadu has, and extend that to, the guests that are there. Saying that, yes, investments are very required in the space of tourism. We need quality hotels. We need branded hotels. Of course, there's an unbranded category as well, which flourishes in the same wavelength. But it is very important for us, and it is important for the tourism planners and the stakeholders to realize that you should not be pushing the limits. You should not be pushing the limits of the land. You should not be pushing the limits of your stakeholders who are there, the community which is around that particular site. Otherwise, you are going to end into a jeopardy. That's my opening comments.
Thank you, Sumitro. Warm welcome again to Supriya Sahu here. Would you like to just give us some opening remarks on the subject, or I can straight away pop a question?
Straight away.
Okay. She came late, fashionably late, so we'll give you the first question. Now, obviously, when it comes to sanctuaries, in most governments, there are clear rules, right? Where we're trying to regulate this Wild West attitude of greenwashing, unregulated tourism and all that. Now, in your opinion, as a bureaucrat from the government, what kind of frameworks do you think we need to prevent ecotourism from just becoming another mass tourism? We've had this challenge with regular tourism, right? We never expected it to boom the way it's boomed. Now with this whole advent of ecotourism, what do we need to do from a framework perspective to ensure that that also doesn't get flooded, and where you have the landscapes, getting sort of trodden beyond belief? What are the frameworks you think, in your opinion, we need to put in place for that?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and sincere apologies. My flight got late, so once again, apologies for coming in late. See, I think I would be very frank in saying that as long as the ecotourism, the tourism word is important, but if it dominates, it's not going to be something that is what we are looking for. I think, in my view, let's call it conservation-led tourism rather than ecotourism. If it is CLT, I think that makes a lot of sense, because it will bring a change the way we think about these things, So what we have done with Trek Tamil Nadu, which is, and it was very nice to hear, the Honorable Finance Minister talk about, introducing trekking as one of the important areas of the focus of the budget, which we all heard yesterday, is that ecotourism and especially trekking would be started in a very big way in India. That's what she mentioned. And we are running I can definitely say the government-led biggest trekking program in Tamil Nadu, which is called as Trek TN, a hugely popular program, which has given an opportunity to anybody to experience the wonderful nature trails that we have in Tamil Nadu, about 40 treks that we are operating, and every trek is being operated with the help of the local community. So for the last 2 years that we are operating Trek Tamil Nadu, we have learned quite a bit. And my biggest learning is that if you call it a conservation-led tourism, if you're wanting to, you're talking about nature tourism, then it makes a lot of sense. So, but if it's a tourism-led tourism, forget about it. So what is the difference between these two words that I'm using? I think the very concept and the very understanding of it, that you are saying, look, this trek can carry only these many people. And there, the income is not the priority. The experience is the priority. And that is where you will make all the difference. So you need to design your programs in a way that, yes, you do definitely kind of earn revenues for the local community. But that's not the primary area. The primary area is to give experience, to make sure that people understand conservation, whether it is wildlife conservation, nature conservation, to make sure that understanding what is being offered, respecting it and incorporating it. You know, that is more important than the tourism per se. And that's what I would like to advocate for.
That's interesting. So perhaps if we use the frameworks with a lens of conservation, then that is what will work, is the point you're trying to make. Yeah, which is fair enough. In fact, lots of it is linked to communities, right? Because at the end of the day, if tourism doesn't earn money for communities, what is the point of tourism, right? Michael, there's a question for you. You know, there are many ecotourism projects which have failed because they failed to put community at the heart. Like they say, they put community in the boardroom. Now, outside the legal protection of sanctuaries, how do we create governance models to ensure that the community actually owns the conservation, so to speak, or owns the land and owns the business of the land? What can we do about that, you think?
Yeah, I think one of CGH's success has been that, actually we got the experience from our Lakshadweep days where 80% of the people working for us came from the local community. And we were getting all the supplies. So everything was being given to us by the local population. And that created a stakeholdership for the local community. The local community felt that this is part of our resort. It is their resort. It's not that it belongs to CGH. It was part of their community project. I think that is very important, that we make the community become stakeholders. And for example, I had traveled to Colombia, and I'm a keen wildlife bird watcher. So we went to Colombia for a bird watching expedition. And what I found was that most of the coffee growing areas in Colombia have become more tourism projects because they've said that, and Colombia was having the drug problem, the mafia was there, and suddenly they cleared out everything and it became one of the favorite destinations for bird watchers. And what's happened is the coffee estates have become, I would say, more a tourist place than a coffee estate, because what they did was, most of the coffee grown in Colombia was without trees. Now, there was an encouragement for people, for the coffee estate owners to plant trees, and because the birds were coming back, and there were more revenue coming back to the owners. So I think it's very important that the local community becomes stakeholders, and that's. I'll give you another example. Is in one of our properties in Kokal Lagoon, we don't see them. Okay, definitely we give employment to the local community, but more than that, we make them entrepreneurs. So, for example, the local lady who comes to our resort to make the evening tea and snacks. So she runs a tea shop just outside Kokal Lagoon. But the evening she's welcome to come inside and she serves coffee and tea in the local style. So immediately there's a sense of pride and sense of ownership of Coconut Lagoon also. I think creating an ownership of making the local community stakeholders is the ultimate test which will take you forward.
That's interesting. I hope President Trump was listening to your story about Colombia. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say about that. Just taking one step forward, Richa, I have a question for you. Now, sanctuaries are brand names, Ranthambore, Bandipur, all of them, right? Which is easy to attract tourists. Now, how do you market a destination that isn't a famous park? An agricultural place, a wetland, a sacred groves. How do you market that in a manner? You're a marketing expert. How do you do that? Though it doesn't have a brand name like, one of these big brand names. What's your opinion?
They are never any bad products. They're just bad marketers. At the end of the day, I mean, you can create a story out of anything. Narendra Modi ji is, one of the examples of when he was a Gujarat chief minister and what he did for the Gujarat tourism. MP came on the circuit because it had a certain campaign. Honestly, we've got so much here. It's just a question of getting two stellar people who the Gen Z or the travelers think is cool, get them to advocate a certain something about a place, and that's it. You've got that going. You really don't need the animals. Like I said, you just need people to be able to create stories and feel smarter after having visited places rather than saying I went and spotted a tiger. By the way, I always tell people, if you want to spot a tiger, never go with me. I have been to so many sanctuaries. I'm just like the worst tiger spotter. I actually go to sleep now in the jeep saying, you never spot a tiger, so I don't really care. But I love the ecosystem. I love visiting, a rural place and understanding how people live. And like I said, for me, this the Kanha story, because it's very recent, it's very clear in my head. We have to upgrade this hotel, for instance, and we're saying, what are the stories that can be told around? And foreigners love it. We didn't even know when we went in that there's a river right there. So you do a little picnic lunch. Then they started posting in the resort itself. And this is not about, and I think, this probably answers the second question. We've created something called a hide, where you sit and, photograph birds in the resort. So people, actually bird lovers, actually love to come and sit there and spend hours with a camera. And we've got a little, water body there where people will just sit and spot the birds. So yes, you've gone to Kana. You will go and do a safari once or twice, but you again created a destination. Now, how do you amplify that for people to sort of come in and say, I don't really care about the tigers, or I don't care about Kana, but I don't mind even going to a Valmiki Tiger Reserve in Bihar today, which is so unheard of. But again, when I was talking to them, they again took the hook of tiger. And I said, don't take the hook of tiger, because I will never go to Ranthambore because I've never spotted a tiger. So it's imperative that we move away from, what's been said all along and really speak about the ecosystem, speak about the habitat, speak about the people there, speak about the food. There is so much that needs to be spoken about. It's really not about the sanctuary, if you come to think of it.
Ram, can I add just 2 points out here? As Richa rightly mentioned, it's bad marketing. So I always give this, this wonderful example. When this famous divorce happened between Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, Norwegian came up with a very, very, quick, witty campaign saying, Brad is single, one way to Los Angeles, this much dollars. So they created a marketing for their Los Angeles flight out of nothing. So there is possibilities in our, the storytelling is something that we need to be very focused on, and also the governance part. I will give you an example. I have been on a road trip in one of the most touristy states in northern part of India. They have a Ramsar site, which is a wetland, which is a beautiful piece of heritage that they have attached to it as well. What I found was, first of all, the approach is very nice, but when you get to that particular place, you find it littered with plastics, you find it littered with Bisleri bottles, and it spoils your experience, number one. Number two, the infrastructure around that, there's a train which takes you around that Ramsar site. They charged a bomb, but the experience, the coaches were badly maintained. It was not running properly. The driver had to get down and, sometimes push the smaller, coaches. The third part was over-enthusiasm on behalf of the state administration. What they did was they created festivals around the whole thing. They got a very good response. They created a second festival. And what happened was, locals, the community started now complaining, saying that, what is this nonsense? You're driving away the bird life out of it. There are flamingos which come into that site. So there are two parts of it, how you market and how you govern the whole site. The capacity, consciousness has to be there in terms of planning.
Interesting you say that, Sumitro. In fact, just hold on to the mic. There's a question I want to ask you. So it's all these urbanites who are going there and doing all this. Lack of respect, right?
Absolutely.
So my question to you is, how do we keep the urbanites within the urban spaces, and we use that as an opportunity to restore nature within cities? Right now, we are having to take everybody outside cities because we've reconciled to the fact that, you know what, all the cities are dumps now. I mean, forget about trees, forget about anything. We need to chop everything for metro and this and that. What do you think we need to do to restore the ecosystem and everything else around the urban catchments so that people start to appreciate that a little more before they even sort of venture outwards? What's your opinion?
I will be, very, brash in saying that, but to me, I would put a price to it. First of all, I'll put a price to that experience, build that experience, and put a price to that experience, and then market it properly so that, people know that what they're paying for and what they're getting in return. The second part is awareness. Like, the biggest problem, the biggest challenge in India, you go to any site for that matter, the approach, the last mile connectivity, all these things matter at the end of the day. So it is a complete building of that experience that you project to your customer, which kind of, helps you maintain these properties, enhance these natural assets.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, nothing.
I've just been told that I have to finish by 1:45, so we have another 9 minutes left exactly. Go ahead.
Ram, I just, there's something that I feel strongly actually. We were discussing yesterday and I was baffled when somebody said 50 crore domestic tourists, that's half our population that wishes to travel. We're a country of 140 crore people and all aspirational. So once your basics are looked after, you will want to travel. I mean, that's the Maslow's hierarchy need. Particularly for fragile ecosystem and for wildlife tourism, we have to get high value tourism that respects the ecology. You can't do mass tourism. People have to really sort of save up and say, yes, I want to go to this place and therefore I will respect this place in what this place stands for. I mean, we Indians will be very, very particular in Singapore. We'll never litter because there's a fine. But, we'll spit, we'll do anything here because there are certain rules. So I think that's where the government really needs to come in and, respect the carrying capacity and, attract high value tourism by also attracting operators who will be able to offer that experience. Today, if you have to go to Ranthambore is a bad example right now. While it has high value tourism, it's also overexposed. But if, for at least in places like Tamil Nadu, invite private operators, have smaller inventory of hotels, not 150, 200 rooms, that respect the nature, and people who come here understand that there is a certain amount of respect that needs to be given. I'm not against mass, but some places should really be valued a little more than, for the fact that they are fragile ecosystems.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, see, tourism planners should take into account that people living in cities, the pressure of living in cities are so much that we need to have a product which meets that requirement. Like if somebody is living in Bangalore, Chennai, maybe Delhi, all of them, they want to get out and feel but at the same time, ecotourism products which are very conscious about the nature. I think these are two different products which we need to understand, and we can't send people who are coming to just to relieve the pressure of city life to a very sacred forest. I think we need to really distinguish both these products, and you need to plan differently for both of them.
Yeah, so one of the big challenges with tourism departments in every state, and I think we heard this sort of today and yesterday also, is there are so many hidden gems in each of our states, in Tamil Nadu also, for example. And this question is for you. Now, the danger of discovering these new places leads to an exodus. We all know that. Yeah, it's an obvious thing. So there's this whole move towards low volume, high value. The Bhutan model, for example. But then that, in a way, kind of conflicts with the philosophy of the country where we say everything has to become made accessible for everybody. We should not have a classless society. So how do we make that balance from a government perspective for high value, low volume tourism destinations, hidden gems, and still balance that out to ensure that everybody else is happy also?
So certainly I would agree that, when you are talking on behalf of the government, the tourism can't be the monopoly of some elite. It cannot be, and it should not be, just because they have the purchasing power or they have the money to travel. So, only they can have the access. I'm totally against it. And that is never the government would like to think like that. Of course, I agree that there is a need that we need to kind of, look at the carrying capacity and I think we need to bring a balance so that people who have the aspiration, but they can't really pay a premium, should not be made to feel that just because I can't make the premium, I can't visit this natural resource, which is a heritage, for everybody. So what is it? What is the solution? The solution is to develop more and more affordable facilities, again taking into consideration, I agree with all of them, that there has to be a very strict implementation of the rules, that you can't really litter the place. So, for example, if you go to sutrula.com, it's a Tamil Nadu government forest department website, which we have actually brought out all the government houses. In fact, the first thing which we should be talking about, there's a lack of information. There is a lack of coordinated, synergistic information where people can access even places which are absolutely outstanding, and they are quite affordable in the heart of the nature. So what we have done, we have brought all the, the forest department trails, guest houses, elephant camps, everything at one place, and that's called sutrula.com. Different gradations are available. You can definitely access, but everything is, it's even young people, young trekkers, college students, they are the people who really they should explore more, because they really can change. They can be the game changer in the entire scenario. Coming back to the second question, it's important to develop more sites. You said that people who are living in the cities, how do we make sure that they have much more to experience within the city? So look at how government of Tamil Nadu is developing new sites. Look at the, the sites we are developing with new mangrove plantations, which is at Muthupet, Pichavaram. Everybody knows you can go, but there is a lot more needs to be done for Pichavaram. But no, you will, Ennore, for example, has beautiful, Ennore Creek is something which is, it's absolutely mesmerizing, gets large number of migratory birds. So people who are interested in bird watching should be able to take a boat, without polluting. So can we have the EV boats, or we can have the boats which are traditional boats going and people watching and coming back. We are working on that. Forest department, along with the tourism department, is trying to develop Ennore Creek as something where people could explore. We recently did a biodiversity index, the first biodiversity index of Tamil Nadu. We did for Chennai city. And we really realized that so many pockets within the city, where people can visit. We are also developing Muthupet. We will also be developing many other sites where new mangroves are coming, including Kanyakumari. So I think I would like to conclude by saying, it should be accessible, it should be affordable, it should be meant for everybody, but yet it has to be responsible. So you implement the rules, right? You make sure, like in Trek TN, we give them a bag, a cloth bag, and we make sure that nobody litters. In fact, they should come back, and if anybody has littered, they should collect and come back. India Hikes is a very good example, and they are absolutely fantastic in implementing very strict rules that nobody litters. Like there were some very good examples people were, all of you were mentioning about how it has to be sustainable. See, it is not rocket science, just that it has to be told properly. So when you go on a trek, you should be told why this trek is important. What happens if you litter? how many birds are available? What's the story? Everybody mentioned about the storytelling, the experiences, the food. In our treks, we are now ensuring that the local community is cooking and packing the lunch in a sustainable tiffin box, in a ever silver tiffin box which people can take and bring back. So there are so many things that you can do. It is not necessary that you make it so exclusive that people feel a bit deprived, that they are not able to experience something. Look at Mudumalai. Anybody can go. You can go and visit the elephant camp every day in the evening. We have recently introduced a storytelling session in our elephant camp where the local person is explaining about the story about each elephant, how this elephant was brought to the camp, what is the story, and they are so moving. So I think it's very important, whether it is government or it is private, that we make sure that it has to be accessible. I believe in it.
Thank you. I think we're coming back to the theme of, storytelling. Ecotourism beyond sanctuaries is if we can tell the stories of each of these sanctuaries outside the standard ecotourism gambit, then that is what people come for, and that's what people come to sort of listen to. I think that was an amazing discussion. But let's just sort of take some questions from the audience, and then we'll close after that. Yeah.
Mics will be passed. Please wait. Yes.
Hi, my name is Kriba Shankar. I'm a digital entrepreneur, but I helped my 92-year-old grandmother start a farm stay, and it's a middle of nowhere kind of experience. I'll tell you the good and the bad. I need your recommendations. Because of storytelling, the farm stay went on to win the Best Farm Stay in India award from the central government and from Outlook Traveler magazine. But here's the bad. Right after we won the national award, real estate companies started to buy land around our farm, and they started to sell plots and market it as right next to India's best farm stay. So what really hurts us is not so much real estate companies buying the land, but single-handedly we have been responsible to price out the land from genuine farmers, and it really hurts us. What would be the possible solution, please?
This is something which is very complex. I don't think there can be a solution like offhand. I think it's important to work on a policy framework, which is how do you actually bring it under the scope of regulation. So working with the government, working with the local district collector is something that would definitely help. Also, it's important, I think we do not have enough time, but people are now traveling, as you rightly said, to farms. They're going, like Forest Department is also setting up a beautiful facility. The first facility, which you will see very soon, is a camp facility. It's going to be our first ever camping facility, which is coming up at the base of the Anamalai Tiger Reserve, and we'll be launching it very soon. I'm very sure once that facility comes, it's going to create that buzz, and people would like to kind of come around. But I totally agree with you. But the solution lies in working closely with the panchayats, with the district administrator, and we should definitely do that. Perhaps these kind of cases should be brought out, as you said, and we can work together to see how we can make sure that it doesn't become another jungle,
Yeah, let me just add to that. You're right, we need frameworks. Otherwise, it's the Wild West. It's going to be absolute mayhem, right? Now, I'm from the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. We are a standard-setting body. We set standards for sustainable tourism globally, right? And we have standards for hotels, and we have standards for destinations. Now, if your area is adopted by the government to develop a destination around that, a sustainable tourism destination, then the kind of challenges that you're talking about will never occur. The challenge we have as a country is to actually adopt the frameworks. I've had many conversations with entrepreneurs, with governments around the country, And everybody's told me, oh, it's a global framework, it won't be applicable to India. And I always say, if it's a framework applicable to Colombia or Sri Lanka or Sweden, why can't it be applicable to India? We hesitate always to pick up standards and frameworks because we tell ourselves, no, we want to do everything in India. I always say, made in India is fantastic. But we have to learn from the world also, right? So I always, when you ask that question, my heart goes out to you because I know exactly what you're talking about. And I've seen multiple destinations like your father's destination get completely massacred because there was no framework for people to follow. I always say nobody sets out in the morning saying, let me this morning go and screw up the environment. We are not wired for that. But if you give them guidelines, like you said in the treks, you give them guidelines. If there's a framework available, then it's completely different. Similarly for hotels. In fact, I think Subha is somewhere here. There are frameworks available for hotels. So if a hotel is going to build itself next to you, if they follow the framework of the GSTC, then what you're talking about will not happen. But the challenge is getting people, governments, everybody to accept frameworks. And I'm hoping that at some point in time, India moves towards that. I say that because I do a lot of work outside India and I always feel guilty when people ask me, what's happening in India? And there's nothing much happening, unfortunately, in that space, but it will come. Governments are beginning to realize, entrepreneurs are beginning to realize, and these frameworks will come. In the meantime, unfortunately, you have to just guard your own land. That's the reality. But then that'll also make you stronger. Let's put it that way.
Two questions, just I'll keep it short. Number one, I have done both India hikes and Tamil Nadu trek quite a lot, madam. So kudos to Tamil Nadu trek, really thank you. One of the best initiatives that can happen. One feedback suggestion is, we have the solid waste management rules. If we can take a leap further and become the unique selling proposition where Tamil Nadu trek markets on how to do solid, wet, dry waste segregation, that will become a real proto example because India hikes does it. Maybe that can be taken one step further is what my suggestion. And one more, just a question is, you talked about high value, right? We had recently an article where the moment you say high value, we are talking about resorts, swimming pools, which contradict the very nature why you want to go to wildlife sanctuaries. Today we have foreign tourists coming. If you do foreign tourists, they predominantly when they travel in Ireland, they are convenient to stay at bed and breakfast. But when they come to Ranthambore, etc., the inclination is to go for a sophisticated resort. And my primary motive becomes tiger spotting, which you said, which you talked about. So when you say high value, right, I somehow feel I'm not convinced that it contradicts the very nature. If I'm a wildlife lover, I would prefer to stay in a bed and breakfast because that is what you're supposed to do right near the sanctuary. You should not be expecting a swimming pool resort price chart 15K per night, a Ranthambore, Taj one. Sorry, I'm completely against it, but this is my perspective. So how do you see that when you say high value? I feel like inherent contradiction there. So.
Okay, so when I say high value tourism, I mean in the way where you actually are respecting the place that you're going to. It's not coming easy to you. I don't really mean that it's priced so high, etc. I don't even mean fancy resorts. Trust me, some of the bed and breakfasts today are doing a much better job than any of the standard hotels because hotels probably, they don't have a soul the way, community or a bed and breakfast do. For me, it wasn't about prohibiting. For me, when you pay more money for something, you have much more respect for it. And that's really what I meant, that, please come and visit it. But, and everybody should have a right to visit everywhere. Why should you restrict? But I just feel that when you pay a little more for it, you have a little more respect for wherever you're going, And I think even destinations should actually start, particularly the ones which are overcrowded. Look what's happening in the hill stations in the north. It's mayhem today. It's, and these were gorgeous, pristine hill station back like just a decade ago. Start charging money to even enter a destination right now. If your carrying capacity is very important, but the moment you do that, you have a little more respect. You just don't think, oh, I just, woke up today and I'm going to go to this place. You've got to plan, you've got to think, you will have a little more engagement with the location that you're going to. It didn't really mean fancy hotels. It doesn't really mean that you pay a lot of money. That's really what I meant. Yeah.
Just to add one more thing, from 1st of April 2026, the Solid Waste Management Act for hotels is going to come into place. if you read the Act, there is a specific provision in the Act saying that hill stations, there would be carrying capacity management. And there is an instruction from the Ministry of Environment and Forests saying that, you have to charge, if need be, charge for entry. Saying that, tourism is a very democratic process. And as far as the high value thing is concerned, there is a misconception. Let me just clear one thing. I belong to West Bengal. I belong to a place called Shantiniketan. It's Tego's University. It does not have many places to stay, but it's been recently announced as a UNESCO site. We, in Shantiniketan, to people I know who have small homestays, the owner of Christie's came and stayed in a 2-bedroom, guest house, did a tour around other sites around Shantiniketan, had a wonderful experience, is now bringing his family back and, looking at homestays to stay. So this is how, we should not be confusing about that high value thing that, money and, big things matter basically.
So yeah, I want to sort of challenge your thinking. And the whole idea here is for us to open our minds, yeah? Yeah. We have a tendency again in the country. The moment it's an expensive resort, yeah, it's a swimming pool. Oh, they're screwing the place up. They're damaging the place and they're profiting. Guess what? The profiting is not bad. You know why? They're employing people. They're giving livelihood, probably 10, 20, 30 families. So that is one part of the discussion. The second part of the discussion is just because there is a resort which sets up somewhere with a swimming pool doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Now, the community can demand that that resort is established in sustainable principles. It happened in one of the resorts in Coorg, where they developed this resort and they had sunk in 2 or 3 bore wells, sucking the water out of the community there. The community blocked the resort and they didn't allow the resort to open, saying you cannot do this. Make your money, our people work with you, but you cannot do what you're doing to the environment. So it really comes back. I don't think the discussion should be centered around, oh, these big resorts are the ones who are, damaging the place. Lots of them are, of course, not taking away from it. But that should not become the lens through which we see it. And I'm going to pass this on to sort of Michael here. CGH Earth is an expensive place. But, like he said in the beginning, from Bangaram when they started, that money allowed them to fund to conserve the place. And today they continue that model. So Michael, would you like to say a few words?
Just again, I would like to continue from Ram, is that when in Bangaram, it was a resort, we didn't have a swimming pool, we didn't have hot water, we didn't have AC, nothing was there. But in 88 or around in the 90s, it was the most expensive resort in all of India, charging as much as what the Oberoi's or the Taj would have charged. But what was people paying for was not for the built space, but rather for the experience. That's which gave us the confidence that today the new generation is not looking at luxury in the sense that you have the finest marbles or the finest chandeliers, but you are looking for experiences which touch you. And that you can charge. So price, I don't think is nothing to be ashamed of, but it's how responsible the resort is.
Thank you. I think we'll take one more question in the interest of time.
Yes, one last question due to the time constraint.
Where's the mic?
So this is such a splendid session. I'm sure so many of you are eager to ask more and more questions, but
thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Aquila, and I'm coming from this growing generation. So here I have a land in the foothills of Annamalai, and I want people to experience the true nature, experience the true food, experience true oxygen. But I am an engineering student. I don't have the money to start that, but I have the master plan. I know what is going to work. So as all of you have so much experience, could you guide us, the growing generation, how we can start? From where do we start, or how we can make this work? Because we don't want to get stuck in the rat race. We actually want to live in nature, and like you mentioned, we want to experience it. So could you please give guidance for that? I
think we should take that offline for, you should button or one of these people, they'll be able to give you. But let me tell you something. Yeah, sure. But let me just say one point, before Supriya speaks. Don't tell yourself, I don't have the experience, I don't have the money, I don't know what to do. Let me tell you something. I was in the world of advertising and marketing for 2 decades. I came back to India and I started the first 100% eco resort. Those days, I remember when we went for a loan, the bank asked me, which management company did you work for? Which hotel did you work for? I said, nothing. And they didn't want to give me money. I said, don't give me money. And then I questioned them. I said, tell me how many hotels you've funded which gives the kind of experience I'm planning to give. And they went silent and they funded me. Remember something. The hospitality business is, to use your term, it's not rocket science. It's a simple business. We do it every day in our homes, where we welcome friends and family. You just take it to the commercial level. So you don't need to be Elon Musk to figure out what to do, especially your generation. I mean, you guys have more oomph and, energy in you than anybody else. So I would say, don't even ask anybody, do what your mind tells you to do. But that's my advice. Let's listen to another piece of it.
So there are 2 things that you can do. One, we have a program in government. It is not run by the forest department, but it is run by another department of the government. We have a senior officer here, Divya is here. You can meet her after that. And this is called as the Skill Startup Tian. So that is a program where you can pitch your project, and those projects are then evaluated by experts. And then, if your project is good, it matches the criteria, you definitely get a lot of support from Startup TN. So that, do look up the website, and many, many people have been able to do that. Tamil Nadu government also has an excellent program which Divya was running earlier, which is a skilling program. So if you do not want to go that way, you really want some skills, then they have tied up with several industries, including hospitality industry, and she'll be able to help you access some skilling projects, where you can build your capacities and can run it. So these are 2 practical advices I wanted to give.
And when you apply in that program, tell them you know Supriya Sahu, yeah? Use that as a reference.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
I think with that we'll conclude, and I'll hand over to them.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, one huge round of applause to the panel. What a splendid session that was. Thank you. And we welcome on stage Ms. J. Innocent Divya, Commissioner of Tourism, Managing Director, Tamil Nadu Tourism Development Corporation, to kindly join us. Welcome, ma'am. We request you to kindly felicitate our panelists. First up, we request Ms. Supriya Sahu to kindly receive. Thank you. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Ms. Supriya. Next up, we request Sir to kindly receive the honor. Huge round of applause, please. Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your valuable time. And let's take one quick group picture before getting off stage. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to break for lunch, and the very next session starts at 2:20 p.m. exactly. So we request you guys to quickly grab something and come back here. We have something very exciting waiting for you. So yes, the next session of the day is going to be on building the coastal tourism backbone. And one interesting fact, Tamil Nadu has a coastal line stretching over 1,068 kilometers, right? We have immense potential, and I'm sure the next session is going to be very helpful. It's going to be very insightful. So please make sure to join us. Thank you. And once again, we thank our panelists for such a great, insightful session. Thank you.